From the missing to the stars, it's that time of the night again where Tim Seanor, our resident Timbit, joins us for the UFO Report.
Nobody's going to know.
They're going to know.
What a week it's been, little Timmy Seanor, when it comes to UFOs, the big news around from Canada, across the United States, around the world, and a lot of stuff going on right now. I mean, how are you tracking it, man?
I am having a hard time. I track it with a little help from my friends, is the short answer there. But it's pretty Canada heavy. Recently, people are thinking I'm Canadian. I report on Canadian news so much. I'm not. I'm an American. I live in Oregon. Show you my passport.
You embarrassed? Are you embarrassed? People are wondering if you are Canadian.
No. I think it could be the big flag waving over here on my right or, studio left. Perhaps that's a little bit of a giveaway, but no. I'm representing the U.S. in this U.S. Or in this UFO conversation. So, yeah, that's the way that goes. No, Canada's great. I used to run up to Canada to get my alcohol illegally before I was 21 years old up in Niagara Falls when I lived in Rochester, New York.
It's not a bad thing. Not a bad
Great
thing.
times. Great times.
Oh, you are a wonderful, wonderful human being when it comes to that. All right. I mean, there is big news. I know it's not on your list here. I don't think it is. And I'm wondering if you had an opportunity to see that piece between Stephen Greenstreet of the New York Post and John Greenwald from the Black Vault really going after Lou Elizondo again.
No, please bring it up. I did not. That wouldn't have been something I saw if it came out after 4. I stopped reading the news after 4.
Well, apparently there is news coming out once again that his former boss or Elizondo's former boss, who left his job kind of in disgrace, really didn't have a good relationship, and it goes back to when he left the days of the UAP task force, which was ATIP back then. And Gary Reed and Elizondo never really seemed to get along with this. So the two, who have been high critics of Elizondo's resume, basically got together on a podcast that said that, there's a lot of questions that really just don't seem to add up, where 2 + 2 is not making 4. And, Twitter, who has, or UFO Twitter, who has, been the bodyguard of Elizondo, so to speak, over the years, is just kind of tearing this up. I'll let you go on Twitter, go on UFO Twitter, or Elizondo is actually trending right now. Excuse me, on this subject. So it's very interesting. Very interesting. I don't agree with it. They're doing their job. I don't really agree with it. But nonetheless, this is the information that they recorded. Give an example. It says one of the documents obtained by the Black Vault through the Freedom of Information Act is a memorandum of record written by Gary Reed, the then Director for Defense Intelligence Office under the Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, OUSDI. In this document, Reed calls into question Elizondo's role within ATIP, asserting that Elizondo had aggrandized his role in the program. Further to that, it was stated, to the best of Reed's knowledge, Elizondo had no job responsibilities related to ATIP, which goes against the grain of what everybody has stated so far and what Elizondo has stated so far. So some real daggers coming out there. Real daggers.
This is pretty much par for the course coming from this area of the story at this point. And Greenstreet and the Black Vault bringing this forward is usually the carrier of the receiver of this news at least, and carrying out to the public. We've seen this before. So I would have to get into some of the weeds with this to really navigate the conversation properly to give you a fair opinion. But at this point, it's more of the same, taking shots at the people that are bringing the information. If you can't, take down the information, take down the person. I think that's pretty much par for the course. We should expect this. So, you know, yeah, I'm not surprised. And what is your reaction to these details? Is this more just anti-loose sentiment that we have heard before, or are there any new details that drew anything into question, or any red flags for you?
Well, I think the red flag is, this has been in my opinion, a targeted effort by Green Street and John Greenwald from the Black Vault, for a while now. Now, they are getting their information from Susan Goff, who is the PR person for the Pentagon and the intelligence agencies in the Pentagon. And we know she was a big fan of Gary Reed, who is no longer in his position. And we know that Goff had been caught erasing Elizondo's files. And, kind of, and I remember talking to you about it, saying, gee whiz, isn't this equivalent to what we learned of Bob Lazar back in the day?
Yeah, it reaches pretty deep. It really
You know,
does.
I just don't understand the targeting of this. It seems a little off to me. Okay, like I don't mind as a journalist if you're following stories, but to continually go back and hammer it again and again and again, I don't understand the purpose why. Okay, because
Yeah.
they're not, like John Greenwald will say, he's not a ufologist. He's a guy who gets a bunch of FOIA requests done on all sorts of topics. Okay, Stephen Greenstreet, we know is somebody who is denying his own UFO experiences. And I'm not saying this to defend Elizondo. Okay, this has nothing to do with Elizondo. Elizondo's his own guy. You go in front of you put your face in front of a camera like we do on a nightly basis. If we say something controversial, we got to be ready to expect there's going to be controversy coming back at us on Twitter and other locations. Okay, it's part of the job, and I don't think Elizondo should have ever got away scot-free because, unlike the Twitterites who look at him as a deity, I don't think that's right either. Things need to be questioned. But at what point do you stop and focus on the stories at hand? This is what I'm not understanding. So, you know, unfortunately, this is what happens when you don't have real journalists. Well, pardon me, Stephen Greenstreet is a real journalist, but for the most part in this field, this is what happens when you don't have real journalists asking tough questions from the beginning or being silenced, like the To the Stars Academy silenced so many right off the beginning for their first few years. But
Great,
that's
great
for
point. Great
another
point.
topic.
No, that's a great point. But before we move on, I wanted to perhaps consider that they had heard some whispers that Elizondo was going to present as a whistleblower slash witness in at some point. And we know we have hearings coming up in July, the next series of public hearings. So with Tim Burchett at the helm, that could potentially be very aggressive. And
Mhm.
if Elizondo was to potentially make an appearance at some point, wouldn't this be the right time for them to try swinging one final time at his credibility before he was to
Well,
present?
what I know about Elizondo, I think he's the real deal. I really do. I don't like some of the people he's hanging out with. Some people he's given credibility to who've played a lot of games behind the scenes. Okay, I don't like that. I have friends who have been affected by that. Okay, and some have been very public and turned very rude on the entire subject. And that's okay. They're allowed. They're pissed off. Okay. But Elizondo himself, I think, is a good guy, just surrounded by maybe some of the wrong people. We all know those people. We've all seen that situation before. Okay. But I think Elizondo, I don't know if he's pro disclosure or just pro getting the story out after he got burned at the Pentagon by Gary Reed. I don't know. But at times, this seems like a real witch hunt. And it's not fun being on that end. And if we had more true journalists covering this, I think we would see a different story. But that being said, a lot of the people who are pissed off with Elizondo are upset because we keep hearing all of these grandiose stories regarding 21-minute videos, regarding UFO sightings, regarding, who he is and what he's all about. Okay. At some point, you have to figure out a way where you can talk to the people around the NDAs and tell them what's going on. And I don't think that's been accomplished very well.
I 100% see what you're saying there. Yeah, that does make sense. But it is the timing of this shot, right before we have more public hearings. And I'm just wondering if potentially there's that connection. But I do see what you're saying. Yeah, there's definitely questions on both sides that are valid.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right, let's move on here because we do have other news to continue.
We
As
do.
we got about 6 minutes before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour.
Perfect.
Is the government concealing UFO craft and dead extraterrestrials? What's your thoughts on this, Tim? Where'd you get this story?
Yeah, so Joshua Semeter, on a former Pentagon employee's eye-popping claims, obviously his opinion on David Grusch and the recent claims that he made. And so in a quote, he's saying that nobody at a level of David Grusch who has been to Congress has ever talked about the often alleged ET cover-ups by the feds. And so this is one of those would-be classified, so it would be illegal to release the specifics. So they're arguing here that he handed over the classified details that he knew to the Inspector General and Congress, and point out that it would be a crime to lie to either. And so skeptics like Klein and other people that have come forward question why the Pentagon would greenlight such an invaluable revelation as it did with Grusch. Because if it were true, potentially they would want to hold back that information and not let it be released to the public. And so in a Q&A with Joshua Semeter, who is actually part of the UAP hearings and part of the NASA team that is to report later this year, he directs the Boston University's, the Center for Space Physics, and is a member, as I said, of the NASA team to report on UAP later this year. So in a Q&A with him, understand he is a skeptic of the topic. And so going into this, we should consider his answers in this Q&A that took place. So the question was, asking to Joshua, do you know or know of David Grusch? What's your take, provisional or otherwise, on the legitimacy of his claims and his motives for going public? And Semeter answers that he doesn't know, and I'll do this in first person as he says it. I do not know David Grusch, but I'm well aware of the story. It would be inappropriate for me to speculate on his motives, but one can state objectively that his claims are 2 steps removed from being earth-shattering. Not only has he not shared any verifiable evidence, photographs, artifacts, or any other manner of data, but also he has not personally seen or touched any of the objects in his references. In the long history of claims of extraterrestrial visitors, it is this level of specificity that always seems to be missing. As Carl Sagan said, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. We are still awaiting the evidence. And so we can get onto some more of the questions that were posed to him, as in what investigation is being made of his claims, either by your study team or any other relevant government entity. And he's saying here that our panel is charged with bringing scientific rigor to bear on UAP claims. We are working in collaboration with the Defense Department's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, which is focused on safety and national security aspects of UAP. David Grusch must be treated as a credible witness, as with the military aviators who have also come forward with eyewitness accounts of anomalous objects. But without data or material evidence, we are at an impasse on evaluating these claims. And so before I go on, we're getting skeptics with these really heavy-hitting opinions coming out publicly in big interviews without really hearing potentially some of the confidential portions that have been presented, or without hearing further claims from other people. Dave, before we get too deep, what's your first take on some of these revelations that were made to him and his reactions?
I think his reactions are very plausible. I like him. I do. And I like the fact that he is saying, look, I don't know who Grusch is. I've heard about him, but where's the evidence? You can't come out and claim all of this stuff without showing us some. Now, we do know that David Grusch does have an excuse. We know that he turned in any paperwork that he had with UFOs to the in the congressional hearings to the whistleblowers, and I apologize, I don't know the proper terminology for that, but he turned in what he had, and due to national security, he's not going to be able to turn that over to the public. And unfortunately, we do have to take his word for it. Do I think David Grusch is telling the truth? Yes, I do. I fully do. And I know people who've investigated him behind the scenes, and they say he washes out perfectly. And that's what I'm going to go with, because I trust those people in order to get that information. But the idea behind this, Tim, is this. If we are at a place where David Grusch says, if it was any other subject, Tim, the United States government and the military would be called to task on this. And yet here we are sitting with probably the biggest story in humanity's history, and nobody's really asking the questions. We're still wondering about swamp grass and little green men. And it's disappointing. It really is. And I think that letter that we saw out of Canada from Member of Parliament Larry Maguire, it kind of, teaches us that this is a world problem, and that answers are going to have to come one way or another. And we're going to have to see where those answers come from. But yes, we'll continue with this, Tim, when we return from the break. Tim Seanor and the UFO Report going right to the top of the hour tonight on Spaced Out Radio. If you ever miss any of Tim's reports, you can go on our YouTube channel and click on it. They're all right there. We'll be right back on Spaced Out Radio right after this. I totally lost my train of thought on there.
It's all good. Yeah, that's no big deal.
Hey, Bombshell Bomber, Tokeland, Ryan Smithhurst, how you all doing? And who else has shown up late here? I think that's it. Just to let everybody know, I'm really sore tonight, so there's not going to be any editing after the show. We're just going to have to close it off. I am so sore tonight, and I apologize, but I really got to try and catch up with some extra sleep to let my body rest.
Yeah.
Holy cow, Bomber. You hit a moose
Whoa.
2 nights ago.
Hey, are you getting a bad echo off my mic?
No.
No?
This Mike dropped a huge super chat there. Thanks, Mike.
Wow, Mike rocks.
That's really nice, Mike. Thank you. Very nice of you. Wow. Hi, Shelly. How are you? Dude, I am so sore. I am literally going to have a bath after this. I am going to go soak in my tub with some Epsom salts. And then I'll fall asleep and drop my phone in the tub again. Yeah, that happens.
The Dave maneuver.
Oh. I fell asleep while scrolling videos.
What kind of videos?
Well, just, you know, those I like the shorts like on YouTube or Instagram.
Yeah, the regular bath videos. I get it.
And I scrolled up, but I guess I scrolled too far and hit my phone and it fell right in.
Boom.
Bloop. Yeah, and I was all like, "Oh crap." Yeah, I had to put the phone in rice because it didn't want to charge after that. Works great though.
Yeah, that's a hilarious story. Oh man, you made
Em, you're so right. Grusch said he gave the documentation to the Congress and the Intelligence Committee. So now it's kind of our job to hold Congress accountable and have them answer to us. Very true.
Yeah. I've got some great updates from those teams right in front of me that we'll do before we hit the next story.
Thank you again, Deb. I appreciate you, hon. I do.
Remote viewing your bath. You. Deb.
Go ahead. It's not pretty. I'm just going to tell you right now, Deb, it's not pretty. But you go right ahead. Dry Toast, the best name on YouTube. How are you? Every joint in my body, dude, is seizing up right now.
That's horrible, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You need to meditate.
Oh my God, that side of my neck just cracked.
Poor guy.
Dude, I'm in rough shape right now.
Stargazer's recommending water. Dead fish cheese spread is saying hot tubs and steam. And yeah.
And I'm recommending to myself Vegas.
Dude, just let me know. I need no heads up on that. You just call me while you're on your way to the airport. I'll meet you there.
All you need to do, dude, is let's not stay at Caesar's Palace again.
But that's the only place to stay if you want to get your back rubbed. That's
every casino has.
I know, but they've got the spa. Come on, dude. Forget about it.
Their spa is expensive. You got to go off the strip to a spa.
See, I disagree. I say keep it easy. You want something that's footsteps away from your bed.
Then you're paying.
Again? This guy.
Yeah. I paid like $120 that time.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, you want to go? Well, Dave, you just, if you show up there, I'll send you to the spa. How's that?
Got you on speed dial. Thanks, Deb times 3, Louie, Cat Chaser, Mike times 2, Izzy Stradlin, and Pam. Here we go.
Always working it.
Final half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. So glad to have you here with us. I want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Tim Seanor with the UFO Report has returned. And Tim, we are looking into David Grusch and, questions about extraordinary comments requires extraordinary evidence. And we were talking about that right before the break. Your thoughts on this, Tim? Because, we can only push so far. And Kurt in our chat room, I know our radio audience doesn't have our chat room, but he kind of made a very strong comment about that. I want to read that. He says, we are aware he briefed Congress, so now it's our job to have Congress tell us what he said. So, I mean, the evidence is there. We're putting the pressure on the person, but what about putting pressure on Congress, who's involved with these congressional hearings, talking about transparency, yet hiding the evidence?
Yeah, and I think that they're always going to hide behind the ways and means. And so it's unfortunate that we hear them speaking about transparency and needing to know the information, that they're clamoring for the information, but we all very much know that they have it. And the fact is that they're not in a position really to share it publicly. And so we kind of have to, in my opinion, go ahead.
May I please cut you off
Sure,
there for
please.
Because I think you said something profound to me. They're not in a position to share it. Why not? They are elected officials. They don't. Did they have to sign NDAs to do these talks?
I mean, I don't know that. There must be a version of classification to the information, otherwise it would be public. So there must be reasons why. And yeah, those are closed doors meetings because the public's knowledge of it could potentially put our national security at risk.
Yeah, and so could chipping a tooth, i.e. Eisenhower back in the day.
Right.
Okay, go on.
No, but you understand that is kind of the air, that's the temperature right now, that they're hiding behind that. And so, they do understand. And that's why you see Tim Burchett in the position that he is in, really stomping his foot and saying, everyone, you're being lied to. And he may know more than he's able to talk about for whatever reason. But the frustration is that he's hoping that at some point they'll even untie his hands. And I think that's what some of these hearings are about. Now, we know that there's going to be new classifications for the task force and things like that, so that they'll be able to get some of the information. They're going to reclassify some of the information so that it can be seen by the task force. So supposedly it's being enabled. But one of the last questions that was posed to Senator in this great question from the Boston University publication, that is the government concealing the UFO craft and dead extraterrestrials. The final question was more about NASA and says, does your team at NASA have a target release date for your findings, and what more remains to be done in your study between now and then? And he just simply says that our panel will be issuing a report later this year. It was not our charge to analyze historical or current UAP data. Rather, our role is to create a roadmap for how NASA assets and expertise can contribute to determining the origin and nature of UAP. If extraordinary evidence does emerge in the coming weeks, that would definitely and admittedly affect our report. So that's kind of a roundabout way of saying that we haven't seen anything. And what we're just simply here to do is to figure out potentially the origin and nature of UAP if we can just wrap our heads around that. So they're very much just at stage one in their efforts. And then we know that the Pentagon recently made a public statement saying that the Pentagon is unable to confirm or deny whether its UFO office, known as the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, ARROW, has discovered any verifiable information to substantiate claims that any current or former US programs have had possession or reverse engineered materials from non-human intelligences or unknown origin. So basically, everyone's throwing up their hands over every claim that Grusch has made in kind of a pre-announcement that this is, from their determination, going to be squashed.
Oh, and of course, and you know they want to squash it. You know that. That's the whole goal behind it right now, is to try and squash this entire story. Get it out of there. They don't want it. But we could go on and on and on. Let's head over to our next story because we got a couple more here.
Cool.
And the Senate committees advancing new language seeking possible secret UFO tech programs. Senate committees advancing new language. What's going on here, Tim?
Yeah, and in fact, I would like to just bring up the tweet that I put out. It kind of put it all together in a really nice way, and I will just read that out to you.
Yeah, please.
So, sources on Capitol Hill just confirmed with us that in addition to the full funding of the Pentagon's UFO program, DoD Arrow additional provisions will prohibit funding of UAP related SAPs that have not been explicitly briefed to Congress. So, what they're saying is no more secret programs surrounding UAPs. There'll be no more programs without the direct knowledge of Congress. So, all of these programs that were hinted at by Grusch, no more. And this is publicly being put into process in Congress. And so that's pretty big right there. Do you have a comment right there before we dig any deeper?
I do, actually. Thank you. Why do they got to keep changing it? Why do they keep changing the programs? Whether it's the names, the programs, or anything. It seems like the minute somebody comes out with something, whether it's Elizondo, now Grusch, we got to be making changes. Why do we continually have to change anything? I mean, the UAPTF office or ATIP or Arrow, whatever it is right now, I don't understand why we got to continually shuffle the deck and try something new when the job of each team under each acronym is the exact same thing. Your thoughts?
Well, I think that's exactly it. It's, these markups that we're going to keep seeing that are going to continually change it so we can't even navigate the ball in the game. You're absolutely right. And it's done not to just confuse us in the public, but also the people that are moving the topic down the field in government. It's made to reword paperwork and make it more tedious for people that are trying to push this because they have to go back and redo paperwork now if they want to. So it's all that, compatible language, and it makes it harder for them to search out FOIAs. And if you're keeping up on the topic and you're looking up UAP, they may be going back to a whole new acronym that was used in the 70s. We don't know. And so we have to keep up with it. And it's all just part of the confusion game. And you know that it makes it harder to navigate the waters every time they switch it up. But the fact remains is they are making it impossible for secret access programs to exist without Congress's knowledge at this point, which is a big deal. And that is simply one of those new holds that they're trying to put on this topic without it getting out of their control, or at least publicly, they want to look like they have at this point reined in on this topic of secret access programs.
Well, you know what? They're going to do what they need to do. And once again, the public gets confused because, once again, I don't think, in my opinion, we've ever needed to change acronyms. It's the same thing from UFO to UAP. Yes, UAP had been there a while and it's been around a while, but everybody still called it UFOs. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with this group here, where we're starting to see, changes coming again. Just because Arrow is not being successful, we got to change the name if they go that direction. This doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me whatsoever, and it just seems like it is a continual game within the Pentagon when it comes to the whole UFO phenomena. And I don't know where to put it, man. I really don't know where to put it. And how do you feel about it? Do you feel it's just another ball of confusion?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, this is absolutely expected. The one thing that I do feel that is coming out of this that is good is that we finally got the attention of the lawmakers that are trying to grapple with the concept that maybe there are programs that have existed in the past that they didn't know about. And so they're like, let's at least draw the line in the sand here and draw up a law that no more spending can happen on this topic without our knowledge. And I think that's huge.
Well, I think it's huge too, but what do you need to redo and redo an entire,
Relabeling.
I mean,
Yeah.
you don't see a company like Pepsi that when they fire their CEO, or you look at what's going on with Budweiser right now and the big changes that are going on there through their politics, okay? You don't see them all of a sudden changing the name of Budweiser or Bud Light. Yet
Right.
with these government programs, how many more acronyms do we need?
You're
OMA,
so right.
OMABGGCDFZ. We had that one. We've had UAPTF, Arrow,
Yeah.
ATIP, OSAP. You
Yeah, I
know,
think UAPTF really that was a tough one. And then we finally got it. And then it was like Arrow and you're like, "Oh man, really?" And it's like great to get the acronym, but it stands for something. What a drag. Yeah, keep it simple. I don't it's simply to confuse us. We know that. But I think our third story brings us back to Canada. We could at least have some fun over in
yeah,
Canada.
let's do it. We got 8 minutes. Blame Canada once again. Actually, and let me tell you how I got this story, Tim. Okay, one of our broadcasters who covers our show is Saga 960,
Awesome.
and they are in Mississauga, Ontario. And earlier today, I got an email from them because a gentleman named Colm Phelan is part of the GDC group, and they actually were conducting or released a press release about UFOs being spotted in Canada. And I think it's absolutely great. I do.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So they're revealing where in Canada are you most likely to see a UFO. Spotting a UFO is not something most of us are likely to experience in our lifetime, but statistics suggest that it's probably more common than we may think. And so, research undertaken by casinos.com, of all things, in correlation of using our odds compilers and traders, they have revealed the odds of spotting a UFO in
I love it.
Canadian provinces and broke it down into 2, 4, 6, 8, all 16 provinces. Is that right? Are there 16?
No, no, there's 10 provinces, 3 territories.
Oh, well, third. Okay, splitting hairs. I think the most UFO sightings have been in Ontario, with 2,380 since records began, equating to odds of 63 to 1 for natives to spot an unidentified flying object. And I love that we're saying UFOs in this article, by the way, should they remain there. So the Northwest Territories coming in second at 22 to 1, followed by New Brunswick at 40 to 1, and British Columbia at 45 to 1, represent the likeliest provinces in Canada where the residents could see a UFO based on the data. And so they've got the odds table spread out. And if you're in British Columbia, the number of sightings were at 1,151 in a population of 5,286,000, bringing those odds to 45 to 1. Dave, you are looking pretty good sitting there at number 3, really. And what are your thoughts? I mean, that means if I go there 45 times, I've got a really good chance of seeing it once.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know what I love about this is that the casinos.com put this out.
Yeah.
I think that's hilarious, Tim.
Well,
I
they're
do.
doing the odds for Vegas, so they're definitely the people to trust when it comes to an
Exactly.
odds table. This is great. These stats read really
Well,
well.
let's go through the rest, though. The Northwest Territories,
Yeah.
with a population of 45,607,
Right.
has had 20 UFO sightings, and your odds of seeing a UFO there are 22 to 1.
Right. Right. Low
Okay.
population, low number of sightings, so your odds are pretty good
Yeah. New
by these
Brunswick
stats.
in the Maritimes is next. We're just going to run down these.
Yeah.
198 UFO sightings. Their population's a hair over 800,000, and they're at 40 to 1 odds.
New
British
Brunswick.
Columbia, you just said. Let's go
Yeah.
to Nova Scotia. 212 sightings. Their population just over 1 million. You had a 48 to 1 chance of seeing one. Manitoba, where we now know there was a crash. 239 sightings to a population of 1.393 million. So a 58 to 1 chance. The Yukon Territory, just north of me, right beside Alaska. You know where they shoot down those drones they can't find after?
I wonder if they're in these stats.
Maybe. 7 sightings for a population of 43,249. Now you got to realize the Yukon is about the size of Texas and a population of 43,000. 62 to 1 are the odds.
7 sightings, though.
7. Alberta, all the, party animal, Calgary
Wait,
Flames.
you skipped Ontario.
Well, you already said Ontario, though.
Oh, but that's a biggie. Yeah, they had 2,380. That's a lot of sightings. Now, do you think it kind of works out per capita, right? We're still seeing, there's like a pretty steady flow here. But please continue. Alberta with 654 sightings.
Yeah, and they have a population of 4.5 million, so 68 to 1 the odds. Prince Edward Island, which is, about the size of Manhattan. Okay, they have 167,000 in population, 24 sightings, 70 to 1 odds. Newfoundland and Labrador, 42 sightings, 522,875 is the population, for a chance of 125 to 1. Saskatchewan, this one surprises me because Saskatchewan not only has the most crop circles in Canada, but cattle mutilations as well. They only had 35 sightings for their just under 1.2 million in population, for odds of 330 to 1. Quebec is the worst. Don't bet on Quebec. 102 sightings, population of 8.65 million.
Wow.
840 to 1.
Chances are low of seeing a UFO there. Now, do you think those last two, Quebec and Saskatchewan, low sightings, higher populations, possibly contributed to weather conditions, do you think?
In the winter for sure. Saskatchewan, much like Manitoba, it could get into the minus 50s and 60s. I mean, you got to realize in the southern part, there's no trees there. Okay, there's no trees to block the wind, no mountains to block the wind. It is frozen tundra. And when you're at minus 40, minus 50, people aren't going outside. I know that for a fact. Okay, they're not going outside unless they have to, whether it's groceries or work or hockey, the most important things going on in Saskatchewan last time. But I'm telling you, Tim, never mess with a Saskatchewan farm boy. Nicest people you will ever meet in the world from Saskatchewan, but you got to realize they're flatlanders. But their sons and daughters, tough as nails, dude. Tough as nails. I would never step into, or I would never ever challenge a Saskatchewan hockey player to a fight. They'd smoke you, just smoke you.
Well, they've got a population of just over 1 million, so I think your chances are pretty good of not having to run into one of them.
Yeah, you never want to do that. Never want to do that. Yeah, but the best part about it is they'll buy the beer afterwards.
See, that's what it's all about. As long as you can cheers at the end of it.
Football fans are nuts too.
So interesting odds coming from Canada and how they have taken to betting on UFO sightings. Obviously, this is what this is all set up to do. At some point, we are going to be betting on whether we're going to see UFOs.
We got to do we got to somehow do a story on this. I got to get a hold of this guy. You know, maybe we need some casinos.com advertising around here.
I like my odds in order British Columbia.
See what the odds are. But I think that's what we need. Yeah. I really do. All right, Timmy, it is time for us to wrap things up, my friend.
Indeed.
I want to say a big thank you for another great week on Spaced Out Radio. You're amazing, and your reports are second to none. And you know what? We see that. We encourage all of our listeners to go check out Tim's live UFO reports on our YouTube channel. They're all right there from the first one to this one right now. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, you got room for them too. Good night.